Welcome to We Are City of Five Nations podcast in our series 30 Days of Community Building. This is actually episode 22 as the days fly by, and we have begun meeting new people in our community. And one of our guests today, franchisee and owner of Chic-fil-A here in town, Jeff Madison, I've spent some time with, so it's not that I'm totally foreign with Jeff, but he's a man that I respect and a man that I'd like to get to know better. And then we are also going to have Josh Inda with us today. Of course, he's CEO of Indaco Metals, a family-owned business for a long time, a couple of decades now. I believe it started in 1995 here in the City of Five Nations. And we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, perceptions of business leaders, and some economic development. And I want to thank Tim Burg up front with Shawnee Forward for helping to get us all together for this podcast. So let's bring on Jeff Madison with Chic-fil-A and also Josh Inda with Indaco Metals. Hi, guys.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Well, first of all, thanks for spending some time. I know that you both are very busy, and so let's hop right into this because I have an admiration for both of you, for the perception that your position brings to my mind. And I'm sure many who work with, alongside, or simply associate with you feel the same or similarly as I do. How do you, in your position of power, deal with admiration? Jeff?
Well, everybody needs encouragement. And so anytime somebody voices a kind word or gesture, we receive it, with humility and thankfulness. And hopefully we're doing the same with other people who we admire in town. So it's good. It's good when people give you feedback and you can pass that on to your team as well, because they're really the source of anything positive that we're doing.
Josh, you grew up in a family business environment. Your dad was a very well-respected leader, and I'm sure that you've dealt with this admiration or type of admiration for a long time. How is it that you deal with that?
Well, back to what Jeff had mentioned. I guess it's one of those things of it's kind of humbling when you get it, but I think you need to share it with the families that at least we call our employees family. You share it with them and how it's inspired all of us to move forward, and how you take care of the customer and how you take care of individuals. I don't know. That's a tough one to answer. It's just, especially when you don't look at yourself as being one that you just try to keep everything moving, and you try to help, as Jeff said, inspire people, and you try to help people, help the community. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Well, I really like that in the sense of, I know, Jeff, with the time that I've seen you in your workplace and with what you just shared, Josh, the idea of those around you are the ones that really make who we are and who you empower to be able to part of your team or your
Exactly.
family, as you said, Josh, is just so important that they realize how important they are in the leader's life and the success of the leader.
Exactly.
Sometimes in that leadership position, it can look easy, from the outside, kind of like you got it made. There's just certain points in a day that perhaps people see you. But I know for a fact that it's not the case. It's not easy. If you don't mind, describe for us some of the struggles that you have to overcome, or that you have overcome, or that you're currently working through. Perhaps it sheds a bit of light on the harder part of life that people do not regularly see when leading, multi-million-dollar businesses. We know that it's not easy, or I know that it's not easy, and you guys struggle behind closed doors just like the rest of us. What are some of those things that you have overcome in the past, or that you deal with on a day-to-day basis? Josh?
Oh, but I'm going to bring the present situation to hand. Is probably it keeps me up I'll be honest. How do you take care of these families? How do you make sure they're being taken care of in this time? I mean, to be quite honest, we've got part of our shop is sitting idle, but we're keeping them here because we feel that's the right thing to do. Customers have slacked off. I mean, I couldn't even imagine for Jeff's situation where he's at. We sell products that people use, need it for as the weather has today. They use that product to help seal their buildings, seal their homes for roofs and stuff. So it's a challenging opportunity. In the past, it's going to be, I'm going to probably say when tornadoes and things of that nature come through, and not so much shut us down, but how do you help with other, well, I'm going to say it's sister companies. Sometimes they're competitors. Sometimes they're also vendors, but they're still all friends. And when we had the floods last spring, there was quite a few of our competitors that got flooded out. Well, we reached out hands and we actually made product for them so they could take care of their customers. And I think that's some of the things you have to do.
Wow. Jeff, that's a great leeway into you answering some of those struggles. You have been I've firsthand see you with that kind of heart, reaching out towards other people and helping other people. What are some of the harder parts that perhaps people don't see that you have to go through, even though you run one of the most popular franchises in our city of Five Nations?
Well, first of all, kudos to Josh for helping out those other companies. I mean, that's amazing. Competition can be a negative word, but really they're just other companies that help us make ourselves better, sharpen each other. And so when a new restaurant comes to town, we try to welcome them, and so, but if the foundation of your business is your people, that really is where one of the most challenging encounters happens, is with your own team. And we call them team members at Chic-fil-A. And because every life has a story, every single person on our team is going through some difficult challenge before even this pandemic came about. And so walking through that with them and trying to help them become more stable. If you look at our community, our county, we have a poverty of the spirit that we want to help uplift, kind of raise the standard. So walking with our team members through those crises and obviously training them and helping them grow, not just in their performance at work, but transferring that to other aspects of their lives. Josh hit on a very good point. There are a million moving parts in a business like this, from your vendors to your customers to the people that help make this keep this building functioning properly. And so when we look at a community like Shawnee, often we have to go to Oklahoma City to get some of those goods and services, and we'd rather shop local for somebody to repair, say, a walk-in freezer or a refrigerator. We have lots of HVAC support in Shawnee, but we're missing some of those skills. So those are challenges because of the extra cost of bringing somebody from Oklahoma City, and it kind of hurts your heart when those dollars leave our community when we feel like they could stay right here at home.
That's right.
It points out opportunities for us as a community to talk to other business, get to know, I haven't met Josh in person yet. And so to get to know the other businesses that are in this town and find ways to solve those problems to create more opportunities, it helps me at the same time, but it benefits a much broader audience in that regard.
I really hear both of you saying that the burden so often that people overlook on leadership shoulders is the idea of looking out for more people than our own, in the sense of we carry a burden to make sure that people are taken care of. It's really a unifying burden for those who know us, but then those who just see us from the outside may not know how heavy really that burden is that we carry. And you touch on a great point there, Jeff, on the sense of kind of looking on the inside to try to get things done. I know recently I was doing some roofing and doing some quotes, and then as soon as it hit me that, hey, wait a second, Indaco Metals carries this stuff, and I have good relationship with Blake out there, gave him a call. We paired up with a local roofer, and we were able to get that done. And how that made me feel just as a contractor to be able to make those connections locally, I really can relate to that. And then Jeff, I know it wasn't long ago, I reached out to you because a freshman class, we were doing a class with a freshman class, and that we were like, hey, it'd be great to get these kids fed, and you just went right with it, and you donated food and had a great time with the kids. And so the heart to be able to, as a leader, do things locally is so important. And a lot of people call that economic development within a community. And a lot of times that's a misunderstood term. First of all, I would like to ask both of you, and I'll start with you, Jeff. Could you, in your own words, define for us your meaning of economic development? And then from your perspective on economic development, why is local so important to our community's overall success?
Yeah, so my definition of economic development is going to be probably more broad than the technical term that you might see in a textbook, because it always starts with people. It's always people first, and it's always ends with people. Now, there is some technical stuff that has to occur in the middle, but really what I've discovered, and you've heard this story before, is I learned this experience in a place called Iraq as a soldier, where I was trying to get things done in the economic development realm. And I found that the best way to do it was introducing people that maybe already know each other. And so you can call that networking, but it really goes deeper than that, because you have to find out what people want. Okay, try to find out what are their dreams, what are they trying to accomplish. And as you're meeting people, you might learn that you've met two individuals who might even be related that you can introduce to each other for an idea, and then they run with that idea. So the community is being developed at the same time. Entrepreneurship, workforce development, other platforms are taking place.
Very much. I love putting people first. And Josh, I know that's part of your remedy to success for economic development, but what about you? How do you define economic development? And let us know a little bit of your thoughts on why it's important for local.
Boy, it's going to be tough to top Jeff there. I mean, because Jeff's exactly correct. And I think it is the connection of people. I use Tim Burg a lot. At the same time, he calls on me. That's when he asked me to be on the economic development. Full disclosure there. I told him anytime he wants to kick me off, if I'm not doing my job, it's about how do you connect people, how do you help people, and I do agree. It's more than just a building. It's more than it's people, and how do you grow the inner workings of the city? How do you grow those families? Because everything ends up at the table for people, and that's really economic development. So how do you bring all that in, and you help grow your own community through the things you do? It sounds kind of a roundabout way what Jeff just said, but at the same time, it's true.
Well, if you think about it, it's really about opportunity. So I learned in Iraq that the Arabic word for opportunity is fursa, right? And so are you ready when an opportunity presents itself? So it's raining today, right? And that's good because I planted a garden a few days ago. I'm glad I don't have to go out and water it today when I get home. But you think about opportunity requires you to set things in motion before that opportunity presents itself. If you wait until it arrives, it might pass you by. So some of the things that we can do and we are doing to be prepared for opportunities is obviously getting more involved in the education of our students, of our young people, creating opportunities for people who maybe missed education when they were in that traditional sense, to bring them back in to the fold, having conversations and relationships across the town to get people with entrepreneurial ideas to go out and create opportunities, not just waiting for them to happen. And that requires us to be talking to each other and to be intentional about wanting to grow economically and create opportunities for the people in our community.
And I hear both of you touching base on individuals. You have to really get to know what the desires are at an individual level in order to help individuals become successful. Josh, in your business, how do you think about that for your employees and for your customer base, of how you serve them and how, as the leader, you can best serve your people?
Man,
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, it is deep. It is deep.
I'm glad you got that first.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I guess there's two sides of that. I mean, one is we're always trying to figure out how do you help, of course, our customers, and how do you help them grow? How do you help educate them to become better at what they do? At the same time, I also agree with the employees, and how do you grow them? How do you teach them? How do you get them certified in things that they didn't know that they could ever accomplish? But as a team, we all each one of us need to have certain different skills. And when we're together, it's just like a football team. You can't all be quarterbacks. And so you've got to have everybody together to be able to move forward. And I think it's equally, along with your employees, it's your customers that they make your business. I mean, both make your business.
Yes. And so that really was just something that I heard from you both, and kind of off the cuff, I wanted to hear from you, Josh. And then you brought up a term, quarterback, which Jeff and I have had a couple of conversations about as well. As he likes to sport his Cowboys jersey, and I've got a different team. But Jeff, what in your background do you feel had the most influence towards bringing you to the success that you're in today? I know that you were very athletic and you did a lot of sports. You've mentioned your military career, which was stellar in what you were trying to do there. But I'm sure it goes deeper than that, and you can touch on those. But what is it in your background that you would attribute your success?
Well, my life goal is still to play for the Dallas Cowboys. You've heard me say I'm still waiting for them to call me for tryout. 52, that time's running out. They need to hurry. If you look back at it, it really, whether it's playing sports, whether it's being a soldier, whether it's being in business, is people have taken the time to give me advice, to mentor me, to pour into me about things that I'm interested about. And so, and sometimes it's encouraging words, and sometimes it's holding me accountable when I'm not meeting the standards. So we need both of those. And so, in the Army, we'd say, I just got scuffed up if I just got counseled for something that I needed to improve on. But when you turn around and you look at that holding me accountable is extremely valuable for my personal growth. And then just being around other people who are pushing themselves to be the best that they can be, whether that's a soldier, whether that's an athlete, or in the business. I represent a brand that's just on fire nationally right now. It's just hugely popular. And so that pushes you too. You don't want to let the rest of that organization down. Just like using our football metaphor, if you had to play another team with only 9 on the field and the other team had 11, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And it could be that you have 11 on the field, but if 2 of them aren't giving their best, you're going to be playing 9 against 11. And there's really no way you can be successful in that case. So connecting with with people have connected with me by casting a vision for me about where we want to go. Like in the military, we had a mission statement. And when you're deploying to places like Iraq and Afghanistan, the mission is to accomplish things and be successful such that you don't have to go back a year from them. In business, it's a little different. It's to really put a smile on your customer's face, to show your community that you care, and then to step into the lives of the people that work for you. If we like that, as we were kind of moving up and becoming successful, then we know that's a recipe for success that we should be using with those around us.
Well, in Josh, growing up here in the city of Five Nations, I know your dad was someone who many of us, and me even as a young businessman trying to start my own thing, looked up to. So you had somebody right there, feeding into your life. I'm sure both the encouragement and the pointing out the things that could be better. Tell us a little bit about Indaco Metals and where it began, and how you've moved through the position now up to CEO, and what you've learned along the way.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start a little bit farther back than Indaco Metals, if you don't mind. I mean,
no, please.
I grew up, my dad kind of being an entrepreneur. Him and his brothers were all kind of the same. And he had several businesses growing up. And it was when I was off in college, he had started up for, I guess you could say, another company, a similar style business. That didn't work out. And many years later, he was able to start up again. I joined him 10 years after he had started the company in '86. But you're right. I mean, growing up, he was always trying something. And I think that's the whole thing as well. You can't ever give up. You got to continue moving forward. So you tried something, it doesn't work. That's okay. I mean, keep going. Whether it's for your customers, your employees, I mean, just keep trying to do your best is all you can do. So, I mean, and besides him, I had a lot of other good mentors, other city fathers here in Shawnee that I was privileged to be grown up around.
Well, what you answered actually reminds me of a friend that I have who pushes me like that, in Ruben Peltier, who does so much, and he always talks about putting your shoulder into the rock that's rolling down the hill, and you just continue to push it up. Just keep leaning into it. Right. And you talk about people like that who are important in your lives. Think about this for a second. Somebody that you admire and perhaps deeply would like their acceptance, in your conversations with them, because you understand what you can learn from them, or they just seem to push buttons that move you forward. How, and Jeff, I'm going to start with you on this. When you think of that person, how would you describe yourself to that person?
Wow.
That's a good one for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's coming to you, Josh. It's coming to you, man.
Yeah. So make mine better, Josh. So I'll go back in time. My parents divorced when I was about 10 years old. And so coaches kind of became a surrogate, parent for me. And so in high school, in the 11th grade, Coach Dan Province was one of the assistant football coaches, but he was the head wrestling coach that year. He was new. And he came to me during football season and recruited me to come wrestle for him. And I had wrestled briefly in the 6th grade, but it'd been a long time. And Coach Province really inspired me, took me from a wrestler that didn't know a whole lot. But he said, hey, as long as you're giving your best, that's what's important. And he goes, there's going to be days that your best isn't as good as somebody else's average. In fact, one day we went down to Comanche And I wrestled a guy. Right before I went on the mat, he goes, it's at the beginning of the season. He goes, Jeff, this young man's 42-0. He's going to beat you. He's probably going to pin you. I want you to make this match last as long as you can. Now, it wasn't a super inspiring pre-wrestling match speech, but he was speaking the truth to me. He was being honest so that I didn't walk into, an ambush. And so at the end of the year, at the the athletic banquet that they always have, I lettered, and he wrote a little note, and he said this. He said, "Always work as hard as you have for me." And so that little handwritten note is the only one I got in high school, anything like that. That little handwritten note told me that he was going to make it personal for me. He was going to tell me the truth. He wasn't going to pull any punches. He wrestled me in practice and threw me around. And I would speak back to him and say, Coach, I've tried to live out what you've told me and always give my best. And I want to challenge other people to do that. Why not give your best? Even if your best isn't as good as somebody else's worst performance, if it's your best, that's what matters. So just you talked about pushing that rock. It's that pressure that you put against that rock that's going to make you stronger over time. That constant pressure of pushing back against you, that resistance. And over time, that rock's not pushing you, you're pushing it because you've grown as a result.
Right. And Josh, you're learning real quick why so many look up to Jeff down there. And he didn't tell us. Yeah, and what he didn't tell us was that wrestler left the mat 42-1. But we won't go there.
Oh.
He actually left with stitches on his head.
But Josh, what about you, man? How would you describe yourself to somebody that you readily admired?
Oh man, and there's a lot of them that have fed me, just like Jeff was talking about the coach. I mean, that have fed me and allowed me to grow. And I'm going to pick a very unlikely person that I haven't seen since I got out of high school and I was working in the oil field trying to put myself through college. And his name was Randy Brown. And I was working in a pipe plant or in an oil field plant in Cushing, Oklahoma, and he scolded me when he needed to scold me. He as an 18-year-old boy, and he inspired me when I did things right. I would probably say that it changed. That one man changed my whole life more than he probably knows that he did, just for those 3 months in a summer. But it was he also taught me that I could do anything. Of course, I was always hearing that growing up from all the individuals, but if I got to see Randy Brown today, I guess my thing would be that I'm glad when I was mopping that pump house station and I just got chewed out the day before, and I guess I was walking around sulking, and he's like, "What are you sulking for?" You got reprimanded to protect yourself, because you were doing something that wasn't quite safe. And at the end of the day, I had a smile on my face, and I realized that was the right thing that I needed to hear. And so, just right. I mean, sometimes you don't hear. I mean, being told you're going to probably lose the match, make it last as long as you can. But those are the things we do need to hear. We need to hear those, and that's what helps us grow.
Yeah. Well, taking us back to the opening, I was sincere when I said I admire you both, and saying that I'm sure that many, if not most people who you meet feel the same as I. And Jeff and Josh, today, what I learned that I didn't know before and I hadn't put into place was really the strength of humility as a leader. Both of you today, in describing yourselves and your situation, really emphasize, as I listen, humility. And I want to thank you for that. That is very admirable, and that's not necessarily the mantra that gets preached in today's world. That walking humbly and the strength in which that gives to the individual, but more importantly, to the individuals who surround us. Would that be okay to accurately describe perhaps something that someone could take away from this conversation about each of you?
Yeah, maybe.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's exactly the response that's necessary, that proves the point. Thank you very much, because you shared a lot of strength with, I don't care if it's anybody else, though I know it has been, with me today from your hearts. Thanks a lot for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I know you're valuable, and we did not ask this lightly. We knew how busy you guys are, and we are very thankful that you spent time with us.
Well, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Look forward to meeting you, Josh.
We hope that.
Yeah, me too.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. People who don't know each other being able to come together. Yeah. All right. You guys have a great afternoon. Thank you very much again.
Have a great day.
You too as well. Bye-bye.
My pleasure.
What a great conversation. Sometimes you learn, I'd go out on a limb and say always you learn something new about yourself when you just get a little bit vulnerable and ask to meet someone who you don't know. Whether you walk up and just say hello and see where it leads to, or perhaps through a colleague, you intentionally bring yourself into the presence of others who you know by what you know about them could feed into your life, and you simply ask questions. That's the way that the strength throughout the community spreads. I want to again thank our guests from today, but tomorrow we have another wonderful young man who will join us, Juan Ramirez. I remember Juan putting together one of his first videos, and I was so impressed with how enthusiastic he was and the equipment that he was using. And then when I saw the video, I could see that this young man had talent. But what I didn't realize was just how tenacious Juan was in his passion for video making. And I've reached out and I've asked if a mutual friend of ours could put us together. And I really look forward to spending some time with local videographer Juan Ramirez. And again, it's just his passion. It's not even his day job, but you're going to love some of the things that you see that this artist, this creative from the City of Five Nations has put together. So join us tomorrow. We'll be live at 9 a.m., but with all of our 30 Days of Community Building series, you can watch them live or you can watch them on demand whenever you would like. Again, thank you, Josh, and thank you, Jeff, for joining us today, where in the City of Five Nations, we all remember, together, we are building community one season at a time. We'll see you